Imagine if your mind functioned on a wavelength that only 1% of people could truly grasp. The thoughts currently rushing through your head may reflect a psychological pattern Carl Jung spent years exploring. Recent studies indicate that these uncommon minds often align with specific personality types, especially INFJs and INTJs, which Jung himself would have identified. Stick around, because by the conclusion of this video, you'll find out if your mind exhibits one of the most exceptional cognitive profiles in psychology. And believe me, the eighth indicator could transform how you perceive your own thought processes. Comment 1. If you've ever felt like no one truly understands how your mind works. Comment 2. If you've stayed silent because explaining your thoughts felt impossible. Carl Jung once stated, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what if your true self exists on a mental frequency that feels foreign to those around you? What if your perception of reality leaves others bewildered, uneasy, or incapable of keeping up with your way of thinking? Jung believed a tiny portion of people have minds that work in fundamentally different ways compared to the general population. These individuals aren't merely intelligent. Intelligence is widespread. Their consciousness functions on levels that most people can neither detect nor comprehend. What's truly fascinating and worth your full attention is that Jung found these individuals frequently remain unaware of how exceptional their cognitive design actually is. They often go through life feeling like outsiders, questioning why discussions seem superficial, why others overlook clear connections, or why their insights are met with puzzled looks or awkward pauses. Does this resonate with you? Keep watching as we delve into the 8 clear indicators that your mind may be part of that rare 1%. First sign, you perceive patterns and connections that others overlook. Carl Jung identified that some individuals possess what he termed introverted intuition, the capability to detect patterns and links hidden from most people. With this kind of mind, you don't just observe isolated events or facts, you perceive the intricate network that links them together. Here's where it becomes truly intriguing, and it might clarify why you've always felt different. During conversations, while others concentrate on the spoken words, your mind processes emotional subtext, historical background, psychological meanings, and potential future outcomes all at once. You're not merely listening to words. You're grasping the intent, motivation, and the insight it provides into the speaker's inner psyche. Jung believed this capacity arises from the collective unconscious, a profound layer of the psyche that remains inaccessible to most. Individuals with this unique mindset instinctively draw from a pool of universal patterns and archetypal understanding, often without being aware of it. Try this when watching a movie or reading a book. Do you anticipate plot twists, not from clear hints, but by intuitively grasping the story's underlying structure? Do you frequently complete others' sentences, not from psychic ability, but because you sense the trajectory of their thoughts? If this sounds familiar, you're starting to see why the vast majority of people find your mind difficult to understand. You function across several levels of thought simultaneously, while others are focused on only one. Yet there's something even deeper about this pattern recognition skill Jung identified, which takes us straight to the second sign. The second sign, you perceive reality in multiple layers. Carl Jung remarked, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But what if you instinctively discern these layers of meaning Jung described while others stay fixated on the surface? If your mind is among these rare types, you don't merely witness events, you perceive the various layers of reality all at once. When someone says they're fine, you don't just accept the word, you sense the emotional tone beneath it. Notice body language that contradicts it, detect the defense mechanisms in use, and grasp the deeper, unspoken narrative. Jung referred to this as psychological depth perception, which is precisely why your mind often baffles others. As others process information in a linear and literal way, you perceive reality as a complex, multi-layered weave. Here's a key insight that helps make sense of many of your life experiences. When you attempt to express these nuanced perceptions, people often react with confusion or rejection. It's not due to a lack of intelligence, they simply cannot see the layers you're referring to. Your insights appear to come out of thin air, as though you're forming connections that others believe aren't there. Yet Jung found something extraordinary about people with this mindset. They often serve as links between the conscious and unconscious realms. They possess the ability to interpret the psyche's symbolic language into ideas others can start to understand. Reflect on this. Do you intuitively grasp metaphor symbols and abstract ideas that others find difficult? Do you tend to use stories, analogies, or illustrative examples since straightforward explanations often don't resonate? This leads us to another compelling trait of your distinctive mind sign. 3. You're intrigued by the darker aspects of human nature. Carl Jung noted that a clear marker of a rare mind is a strong curiosity about the shadow, those concealed darker elements of human nature that most people avoid or reject. If this is how your consciousness works, you don't merely accept the existence of a dark side in everyone you're deeply interested in understanding it. You seek to uncover the reasons behind harmful actions, the motivations for destructive behavior, and how the psyche holds such opposing forces. What makes this so remarkable and unsettling to many is that while most are satisfied to label certain actions as simply evil or wrong, your mind looks deeper into the psychological forces behind them. You're not justifying destructive behavior, you're striving to fully understand the complexity of human nature. Jung stated, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your mind is instinctively drawn to uncovering the unconscious, delving into the hidden and often avoided corners of the human psyche. This may explain your attraction to complicated, morally gray characters in stories and cinema. You may be intrigued by true crime, not for its sensationalism, but for its psychological depth, as well as by philosophy, psychology, and disciplines that examine the full breadth of human experience. You're often open to discussing topics that many people consider sensitive or off limits. Jung's important discovery was that this interest in the shadow isn't a morbid obsession. It reflects psychological growth and wholeness. You recognize that genuine self-understanding and understanding of others requires embracing all aspects of human nature. Many find this perspective uncomfortable because they still view the world in binary terms: good versus evil, right versus wrong, light versus darkness. Your mind has transcended these simplistic dichotomies, evolving into a more layered and nuanced view of humanity. This brings us to what may be the most isolating feature of this rare mindset, sign 4. You often feel as though you're speaking an entirely different language. Jung found that people with this uncommon mental structure often endure what he termed psychological loneliness, a deep sense that no one fully comprehends the language of their inner life. If you possess this kind of mind, you've likely had many conversations where it felt like you were talking in riddles. You might offer what seems like a straightforward insight, only to receive puzzled looks or replies that show complete misunderstanding. What's going on beneath the surface explains a lot about your social interactions. Your thinking naturally expresses itself through symbols, metaphors, and layers of meaning. When you communicate, it's more than just data. You're conveying whole systems of thought, emotional nuance, and intuitive perception. Yet most individuals can only process literal, surface-level messages. Jung believed this communication divide isn't a defect in your thinking. It shows that your awareness functions on a level beyond the ordinary. It's as if you're transmitting in high definition while others are tuned in on basic AM frequencies. Consider how often you've had to simplify your thoughts merely to be understood. How frequently have you said "never mind" because explaining your real viewpoint would take too much effort or context? This may be why you prefer writing, where your ideas can be shaped with care or one-on-one talks instead of group chats. You might turn to creative outlets or even silence because it can be less draining than trying to verbalize your complex inner experience. Jung realized what many don't, that this communication difficulty isn't a problem to fix, but an opportunity for deeper understanding. The distinctive way you express yourself is an invitation for others to broaden their own awareness. Which leads us to a potentially surprising sign 5. You often feel uneasy with strictly logical thinking. It may sound unexpected, but Jung found that people with the rarest minds often feel restricted by strictly logical reasoning. If this describes your thinking, it's not that you dismiss logic, you simply understand its limits. Whereas many depend on step-by-step reasoning and cause-effect analysis, your thinking works through what Jung described as intuitive logic, blending emotion symbols, contradictions, and nonlinear associations. This is why others may struggle to follow your thinking. When tackling a problem, while most construct step-by-step logic chains, your mind juggles many factors at once. You weigh more than just logical correctness. You also factor in emotional resonance, hidden patterns, and the full intricacy of the issue. Jung believed this wasn't a weaker form of reasoning. It was a more advanced integration of knowledge. You aren't discarding logic. You're embedding it within a broader framework that includes intuition, emotion, and insights from the unconscious. This explains why you might, for example, trust your instincts, even when they defy logical explanation. Or spot problems in arguments that are logically valid, but intuitively feel off or incomplete. You may favor inventive problem-solving approaches over rigid rule-following. And you might get irritated by those who disregard what can't be objectively measured or calculated. Jung's key insight was that unease with pure logic doesn't signal weakness. It indicates that your mind merges various forms of knowledge for a fuller grasp of reality. Most people function from one-side logic or feeling thinking or intuition. Your exceptional mind shifts fluidly between them, weaving them together into a rich harmony that sounds like noise to those attuned to just one part. This integration brings us to one of the most striking indicators of rare consciousness. Sign 6. You naturally see through social masks. Comment 1. If you often sense when someone is hiding their true emotions. Comment 2. If social situations leave you feeling drained when everyone's just performing. Jung once stated, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But what if you can instinctively detect the facades people show their public personas and glimpse the true self hidden beneath them? If your mind works this way, you not only sense inauthenticity, you understand how someone is shielding themselves, the fears motivating them, and the real person trying to break through the mask. This perception is both empowering and heavy. Here's why it often leaves others unable to relate to you. While others take social interactions at face value, your mind is always reading the hidden meanings beneath them. You detect micro-expressions, inconsistencies between speech and gestures, and emotional undercurrents that others completely overlook. Jung believed this deep perception comes from what he called active imagination, your innate capacity to see beyond the literal and into deeper psychological truths. What's truly remarkable is that you not only see through masks, you also comprehend why they exist. You understand that personas serve as defense mechanisms, shielding inner vulnerability, and that everyone shares the need to feel secure and accepted. That's why you often end up being a confidant to others, even without meaning to. You may feel drained by social environments where people are clearly putting on a performance. You prefer real, emotionally honest dialogue over superficial chit-chat. Sometimes you even understand someone's emotional state better than they do. Yet Jung warned that this gift also leads to a deep sense of isolation. You live among people who wear masks, talk in social scripts, and play roles, and you're one of the rare few who sees through the act. This leads us to a sign that may clarify some of your most profound internal struggles. Sign 7. You experience existential loneliness. Jung found that people with this rare mental configuration frequently endure what he termed existential loneliness. It's a deep feeling of solitude, not due to a lack of relationships, but because their perception of reality feels incommunicable. If this describes your mind, you've likely felt a painful solitude that isn't tied to being physically alone. Even surrounded by people, you might feel like an entirely different kind of being, utterly isolated. Here's what's happening on a psychological level, offering insight into much of your inner life. Your mind is naturally drawn to life's biggest questions, our purpose, the meaning of existence, and the coexistence of beauty and suffering. While many are satisfied with superficial living, your mind continuously wrestles with the core mysteries of being. Jung asserted that this existential focus isn't about depression or gloom. It reflects deep psychological and spiritual development. You refuse simplistic answers. Your mind insists on genuine comprehension. Yet here's the great difficulty. when you share your existential thoughts, others often react with unease, brush them off, or change the subject to something more mundane. This may explain why you feel most connected to books, art, or music, more so than to people. You might constantly seek meaning in everyday moments that others overlook. You often challenge the cultural norms and assumptions that most people never question. At times, you may feel like an alien among people who are content with shallow explanations. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what if that true self exists in a realm others can't even see? This existential solitude isn't a psychological defect. It's a sign that your awareness has moved beyond normal limits. You're immersed in the breadth of existence while others are fixated on daily trivialities. This takes us to the last and perhaps deepest sign of rare consciousness. Sign 8. You are inherently attracted to transformation. Jung found that the most uncommon minds are powerfully pulled toward transformation, not merely self-improvement, but the deep alchemical shift he called individuation. If this resonates with you, you may be among the rare people Jung described as introverted intuitives, those instinctively called toward profound inner change. With this type of awareness, you're not just interested in bettering yourself. You feel compelled to entirely reinvent your being. You seek out transformative experiences that dismantle and reconstruct you, that question your core beliefs, and that make you face the most hidden layers of your psyche. What makes this unique and frightening to many is that while others want stability and comfort, your mind yearns for the disruptive energy of change. You don't fear inner death and rebirth. You understand that real growth comes through these cycles. Jung saw this draw toward transformation as the defining trait of what he called the individuated individual, a person who has unified their conscious and unconscious, accepted both their light and shadow, and become whole. Jung's critical insight was that for minds like yours, this transformation isn't a choice, it's a necessity. You don't simply decide to change, you're drawn into transformation by forces deeper than your conscious mind. This explains why you may repeatedly gravitate toward situations most people steer clear of, why you instinctively look for challenges that compel growth, why you feel uneasy when life becomes too easy or routine, and why you recognize that breakdown often comes just before breakthrough. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Your rare mind not only accepts that it sees it as life's essential mission. Many people avoid transformation, holding on to familiar habits and shunning the journey of becoming their true selves. Your awareness sees transformation not as a passive experience, but as something you actively engage in shaping yourself as a co-creator. And there it is, the 8 clear signs that your mind functions in a way that 99% of people can't fully grasp. If you saw yourself in these traits, know that you're not alone. You belong to a rare group of minds Jung studied and admired. As we wrap up, understand this: your unusual mind isn't a weight, it's a gift to the world. Jung found that such individuals often act as bridges between the conscious and unconscious, translating symbolic inner language and sparking growth in others. Your talents: spotting hidden patterns, perceiving multi-layered reality, understanding the shadow, using symbolic communication, blending various forms of knowledge, seeing through personas, asking deep existential questions, and pursuing transformation. These aren't flaws or oddities. They're signs that your awareness has grown past the ordinary limits of perception. You're not strange. You're evolved. You're not hard to understand. You're functioning at a level that encourages others to grow. Comment 1. If you often sense when someone is hiding their true emotions. Comment 2. If social situations leave you feeling drained when everyone's just performing. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Your rare mind is both the path and the goal of this authentic journey. So when your perspective makes you feel isolated, remember you're not the only one who feels that way. A hidden network of rare minds exists globally, each facing similar struggles, each helping to evolve human consciousness in their unique way. Your mind isn't something broken to fix. It's a mystery to experience, a gift to offer, and a portal for others willing to explore. The question isn't whether you possess this rare mind if you followed this far. Chances are you already do. The real question is, what will you do now that you understand? How will you cherish your gift and connect with those who may not speak your language, but can still be enriched by your insights? Jung found that the rarest minds often serve as vital connectors between worlds. Your distinct viewpoint isn't a wall, it's a gateway. Comment 1. If you recognize yourself in these signs. Comment 2. If you're still reflecting, but feel something inside you stirred. The world needs those who can unlock doors others don't even see. Welcome to the 1%. Your journey of self-discovery and offering your rare gifts to the world is only beginning. Thank you for joining this exploration. If it resonated with you, consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who might appreciate it. If you'd like to support this effort further, feel free to leave a super thanks below, a small gesture that helps sustain the channel.